Okay, two of the lessons that we had in the past were greatest common factor and least common multiple. And I'd like to review some of these because these two numbers are really important in doing some operations for fractions. So let's start with greatest common factor. The greatest common factor, or the commonly known as GCF, is used to reduce fractions to simplest form. Okay? So let's try the factor 8 over 20. Okay, so I'd like to emphasize that we need to reduce this fraction because as you can see there's a number that we can divide with both 8 and 20. When I taught you the factor 3, we did not really need to find I did not really push you to look for the greatest common factor, but this is actually just the same thing. It's only that we are incorporating the greatest common factor in this lesson. Okay, so let's try this one. Okay, what would be the greatest common factor for 8 and 20 so we can reduce it to the simplest form? Okay, so using your factor tree, let's factor 8. So that will be 1 times 2 times 2 times 2. And we also factor 20, that will be 1 times 2 times 2 times 5. Okay, how do we get the GCF, right? So we encircle every common factor that both numbers have. So in this case we have a common 2, so we'll circle that 2 out, and there's another 2, right? So there are two numbers or two 2's that is common for both 8 and 20. Okay, so we write those numbers. So we only multiply the common factors. In this case, we have two 2's. Alright? So we have 2 times 2, and that's 4. So that is your greatest common factor. Let's factor 8 and 20. Therefore, 8 would be, of course, you know that 8 is 1 times 4 times 2. 4 coming from your greatest common factor. And also 20 would be 1 times 4 times 5. 4 again coming from your greatest common factor. Alright, from the lessons that I have, from the video about reducing fraction, we mentioned that we need to cancel out common factors. So in this case, we had a common factor of 4, which is the greatest common factor. Okay, so we get rid of that. So now we have 1 times 2 left on the numerator and 1 times 5 left on the denominator. Simplifying that, 1 times 2 is equal to 2 and 1 times 5 is equal to 5. So therefore 8 over 20, the simplified form of that would be 2 over 5. Okay, so let's try this one. 6 over 8. Alright, so let's get the factors of 6 and 8. 6 would be 1 times 2 times 3. 8 would be 1 times 2 times 2 times 2. Okay, and so let's get the common factor, which is 2. In this case, the greatest common factor is just one factor, which is 2. Okay, so that's just it. And so let's factor 6, which will be the same as the original factor, and 8 the same also with the original factor. This happens when you only have one number as a common factor. Okay, so let's cancel out the common factor. For the numerator, you have 1 times 3 left, and for the denominator, you have 1 times 2 times 2 left. And so let's simplify that. 1 times 3 would be 3, and 1 times 2 times 2 would be 4. Okay, so therefore 3/4 is the simplified form of 6/8. Simplified form means they are equal. Only. Alright, let's try another one. 4 over 12. Again, let's factor 4 and 12. So that's 1 times 2 times 2 for 4. And for 12, we have 1 times 2 times 2 times 3. We circled out the common factors. We have 4 and 2. By the way, we do not encircle 1 because I just added 1 in here as a place value. So just in not place value, but to make sure that if all the factors in the numerator cancels out, you don't get confused that you don't have anything left. Okay, so we don't have to circle out 1. Okay, so let's get the GCF, all the numbers that are circled. So that would be 2 and 2, and that would be 4. Okay, so let's go back to our original problem, which is 4 twelves. Okay, let's factor out 4. That will be 1 times 4. We use 4 in here instead of 1 times 2 times 2 to use the greatest common factor idea. Okay, and about 12, that will be 1 times 4 times 3. And then again, we cancel out the common factors. So therefore, we have 1 on the numerator and also 1 times 3 on the denominator. Now this is what I'm talking about. The reason why we do not cancel out 1 is because I don't want you to get confused. If you cancel out 1, you might end up writing 0 on your numerator, and we don't want that because that's not right. Okay, so we have, let's go back to the problem. So we have 1 over 1 over 3. So therefore that will be 1/3. This means 1/3 is equal to 4 over 12, only in simplified. Okay, so let's go to our next topic, which is called least common multiple. Okay, so what is least common multiple? If you remember from our previous class, least common multiple would be a number that you can both divide with two or more numbers. Like say for example 12 is a multiple of both 3 and 4. Why is that? Because you can both divide 12 by 3 and you can also divide it with 4. Now the least common multiple would be the smallest number that you can divide with 2 or 3 or 4 numbers. Okay, and so the least common multiple here is, okay, the least common multiple here is used to find equivalent fractions, so you can add, subtract, or compare two fractions with different denominators. Okay, so that's the clue there. You have different denominators, you cannot right away add or subtract or compare. You need to get the equivalent fractions. In order for you to get the equivalent fractions, we need to get the least common multiple to be used as the denominator of these fractions. Okay, so let me show you how this is done. Okay, so say for example we have 1/4 plus 4/6. As you can see, the denominators are not the same, so you cannot right away directly add that. We need to find the equivalent fractions for 1/4 and 4/6, so you can actually add them directly. Okay, so we have 4. Let's factor out 4. This 4 is the denominator. Okay, let's factor out the first denominator, which is 4. So that would be 1 times 2 times 2. And then let's factor the second denominator. What we're doing here, we're just dealing with the denominators. Okay, 6 would be 1 times 2 times 3. Okay, how do we get the LCM? We encircle the common ones, the common factors. In this case, we circle 1. In the greatest common factor, we do not encircle 1. In the least common multiple lesson, we circle 1s. Okay. Okay, how to get the LCM? We multiply the common factors as 1, meaning they are counted as 1, and then also multiply the ones that have not been encircled. So in this case, in order for us to get the LCM, see, both ones count as 1, so we just write it as 1. And the 2 that is encircled, we also counted that one as 1, 2. So you have 1 times 2 now for both the encircled numbers. And 2 from 4 that is not encircled, we count that one as 1 factor again. And then the other 3 that's not also encircled, we also put that in. Okay, so now our LCM would be all these numbers multiplied to each other. So 1 times 2 times 2 times 4, that would be 12. So therefore 12 would be your least common multiple. Okay, so let's go back to our problem. How does this thing work? Okay, right? Okay, so this means 12 will be the new denominator. Let's try that. Alright, so we have 1/4 plus 4/6 from the previous problem with the least common multiple of 12. Alright, so let's find the equivalent fractions. Alright, so we know that 12 will be the new denominators. Okay, we just need to find the equivalent fraction of 1/4 and 4/6, with 12 as denominators. How do we do that? Okay, so let's remember this process. We need to divide the new denominator, which is the new equivalent denominator, divide that by the old denominator. So 12 divided by 4 is 3, and then we multiply it with the old numerator. Okay, is that confusing? New denominator divided by new old denominator. Let's try that again. New denominator divided by old denominator multiplied to the old numerator. So that would give us 3. Okay, that means 1/4 and 3/12, they're just equivalent fractions. Okay, all right, so let's do for the let's work on the second fraction, 4/6. Let's divide 12, the new denominator, by the old denominator, and then multiply it with the old numerator. So 12 divided by 6, that's 2, times 4, that would be 8. So now 4/6 and 8/12, they're just the same fraction. Okay, so as you can see, for the new fractions, we have 3/12 and 8/12. They have the same denominator of 12. Okay, so we can therefore add them now. So that will be 3 plus 8, that's 11. So you have 11 over 12. So that's the answer for your problem. Alright, so let's try this one. 3/4 plus 1/6. Okay, again, 4 and 6, not the same denominator, so we need to get the equivalent fractions. We need to find the equivalent fractions. Alright, so let's try to find the LCM. For the denominator 4, we have 1 times 2 times 2 as factors. And for your 6, 1 times 2 times 3 as factors. Okay, let's circle out the common ones, 1 and 2. So your LCM would be the 1, so you have 1, times the 2 that is common, times 2, times the 2 that was not encircled, times 2, and the 3 that is not encircled, that's 3. So therefore our common factor is, our common multiple, the least common multiple is 12. Okay, alright, so let's prepare our new fractions with 12 as denominators. The first thing that we need to do, for the first fraction, 3/4, we divide the new denominator by the old denominator and multiply with the old numerator to find the new numerator. Okay, so 12 divided by 4 is 3 times 3, that would be 9. Okay, so again, 3/4 and 9/12 are the same fraction. I mean, they are equivalent fraction, they're equal in value. Alright, let's work on the second fraction, 1/6. We divide 12 by 6 and then multiply it by 1. So 12 divided by 6 is 2 times 1, it's 2. So therefore now your new fractions, 9/12 and 2/12, you have the same denominator, so therefore you can add them directly as 11 over 12. 9 plus 2 equals 11, and then you. Alright, let's try subtraction here. Let's say 1/4 minus 1/6. We need to find equivalent fraction again because they're not the same denominator. So let's find the LCM. 4 would be 1 times 2 times 2. 6 would be 1 times 2 times 3. Circle out common factors. Let's get the LCM. For 1, we write 1. And for the common 2, we write 2. And then we'll multiply the 2 that was not part of the common factors. And we multiply 3, that's not also part of common factors. Therefore, you have 12 again as your denominator, a common denominator. Alright, so let's do this. Okay, so divide the new denominator with the old denominator, multiply with an old numerator. So you have 12 divided by 4, that's 3 times 1, that's 3. Okay, let's do 1/6. Okay, 12 divided by 6, that's 2, multiplied to 1, that's still 2. Okay, so therefore 1/6 and 2/12 are equal. So as you can see, the new fractions now have the same denominator of 12, so therefore you can directly subtract them. 3 minus 2 is 1 over 12. Okay, so that's the answer to your question. Okay, so I'd like to encourage you to practice more on these. Um, Actually, adding and subtracting fraction is a little bit harder compared to multiplying and dividing. So we'll be spending more time with this just to master the skill. Alright? I'll try to send you some assignments. If you have some assignments to work on for today, that would be great for you to practice on. Alright, have fun.